Okay, so I'm back. Apologies for the short delay there. We were just getting set up and everything is looking good. I am delighted to welcome Susan Calloway to the stream. Hello, Susan. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Hey, everybody. It's so nice to be here today. So hello.
Well, thanks for being here. Like with all our guests, we're talking about the fact that COVID has basically trashed many people's lives. From your perspective, you're a singer-songwriter, you're a performer. This must be weird for you right now because you're used to being up on the stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So how are you coping?
Well, it is very weird. It's definitely been an unusual experience, but I think we can all speak for that. I mean, who would have thought, a year ago that we'd be dealing with something like this? It's so unique, and, but I guess the way I've kind of looked at it, I mean, yes, it's been a bummer and I totally miss performing live because there's something about that energy that is so great as an artist, to be able to see fans and just look at your faces while I sing and things like that. But I think one of the things I'm trying to use this time for, though, is to sort of regroup a little bit because I've been working on a lot of new music. I've been doing a lot of recording. I have a studio in my home. So what I'm trying to do is use this time to sort of think of new things that I can do to connect with the audience. Because really, one thing that makes me a unique singer is that a lot of my fans, even though I live in the US, I have fans all over the world. Mm-hmm. So even realistically, even before COVID, it was hard to reach everybody because, you're only able to really do a live performance if you're in that city, in that moment. So it's sort of been a challenge. And I know a lot of artists kind of feel like this. It's kind of like an invitation too, to say, hey, what are you really doing with your online stuff? And I'm going to be planning a live streaming concert really soon. So I'm really hoping that everybody can come to that because I think it's going to be great. I'm going to be performing some Final Fantasy songs. So I think that'll be, a great chance for fans to at least get something while they're trapped at home, and not able to do a live show. So anyway, so that's how I'm coping. I'm trying to make the most of it is my, the bottom line.
Oh, good for you. And as you said, it's a completely different world right now. Everyone's having to adapt. So voice actors are recording from home. We're used to hosting physical events and now we're trying to keep everyone happy by doing online stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad that we can all still at least stay connected in some form. So it's great, but it's definitely an adaptation. So anyway, let's get right into it.
Sure.
I'm really curious as to how this happened. So if we go way back before Distant Worlds and we go before the 14 talk, what came first? Was it recording with 14 or had you already performed at a Distant Worlds prior to that?
Well, that's a very good question. And a lot of people, because so many people, when I started, when I sang the theme songs for 14, that's the first time that many fans had heard of me. And I actually kind of started working with Final Fantasy before that. Right. And that's sort of how I got the opportunity. There was a time where Arnie Roth, who, as everyone knows, is the producer and conductor for Distant Worlds, and he's an amazing musician in person, and we're great friends. And he was working on an audio CD of some of the Final Fantasy songs. It was Distant Worlds 1, I think. It was the very first one they put out. And again, just because Square Enix, he had been working with Square Enix on some things in Nobu, and they wanted to put out an audio CD of the game, and they had a few vocal numbers, and they didn't really have a singer that they really felt strongly about that could really do a good pop vocal performance. And because I already knew who I was, I'm a singer-songwriter and I was, doing a lot of performing. I also did a lot of recording sessions in the city of Chicago. I have a lot of clients there. And so he knew of me from that kind of world. And he, just kind of put that together of like, hey, we should have her try this. So I actually did it. That was one of the first internet sessions I had done in my new studio when I first got it going. And I did the recording here. And sent him tracks and didn't really think much of it. And the fans just really responded. He got so much feedback from it of like, wow, we really like the singer. And then from there, Distant Worlds had just started like doing some live shows. Right. And then so we kind of this all just kind of evolved naturally. It was like, wow, the CD went over really well. Let's try having you come to a couple shows and sing. So I did. And again, it just went really well. And we enjoyed working together. The crowd seemed to like it. And it just sort of snowballed from there. And then as Distant Worlds obviously just really took off, and I don't think any of us knew that would become such a successful concert tour. And I continued to obviously be a part of that. 14 was created and Nobu was working on it. And he had seen me at the shows at Distant Worlds and was like, I really like Susan to be the singer of this. And so we tried. And one thing I will say too, Alex, one thing I really appreciate about working on this project, obviously it's been great to work with Arnie. He's just an incredible musician, and I've learned so much from him.
He's so talented. I remember I saw him perform where was that? I saw him, I think it was at the New World, and he whipped out a violin. And I was like, whoa. I was like, holy, he's such a talented guy.
He can't be good at so many things.
Yeah.
No, he's really great. And that's, that alone's been awesome. But one thing I've really appreciated too is working with Nobu. And it's funny, Nobu is such a amazing musician, as I know the fans know that. And he's such an awesome person also, though. And he's so kind and so generous. And one thing that I've really appreciated about Nobu is that he's always treated me like a recording artist, and he's always wanted me to approach any work that we did together. Like, he wanted me to collaborate and be like, what do you think about this melody? What do you think? Like, does it feel good? What's the right key? What's the right, how should this be sung? And he really wanted me to put my own artistry into the song, which really, I think we ended up with a better product because of that, because it allowed me to really use what I do best, which is I am a recording artist, so it let me really be myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that has been a very important thing that a lot of people don't realize, like, well, why has it been so successful? And I think it's because, I really credit him and Arnie for orchestrating that situation and for also just letting me be myself in that recording, because that makes a huge difference as an artist,
Using the word orchestrating was a very good pun there. You missed out on an opportunity. But like, as you said, it's chemistry, right? Like, everything comes together. And one of my questions to you, which you've already touched upon, is like, working with someone like Nobu must have been quite mind blowing. Like, from a Final Fantasy perspective, many fans of the series think the guy is a god because he's produced so many amazing tracks. Right. And, you, as you said, you were working, because I had a feeling you were working on Distant Worlds before. That's why I asked. And then you get the opportunity to work on this 14 project. Now, did you know going into it what the project was? Did you know that you were going to be...
I knew there was going to be a theme song, but then if you remember, when 14 first was about to be released, they also they pulled it back. They pulled it off the shelves because they had some problems. And we were really afraid they were going to maybe take answers away. Right. You know what I mean? And not like, because sometimes when they do the gaming thing, I mean, one thing that's challenged about working on a video game is that the music is obviously very important and it's great because it sets the mood, but it's still not, there are still decisions that are made sometimes that don't always, the music isn't always the priority. Yeah. Exactly. So sometimes they have to rework, because if it's not working with the game, then...
There are quite a few tracks from the original 14 that have made it into A Realm Reborn, and luckily enough, you traveled with it.
Right, exactly. So that was, we were really relieved about that. I remember when that happened. So no, did I know? I mean, I knew it was going to be singing a theme song, but I don't think any of us knew. I mean, again, when you create something like that, none of us knew. There was a lot of, anytime you do something new, it's like putting out a new CD or a new single or a new record or whatever. It's like, you don't know, how it's really going to go, or even as it's going down, you don't even maybe realize how special it is, what's happening. You know what I mean? And,
do you know where the lyrics came for our answers? Was that something that was just translated, or in some, like, was Nobu working on that and it was translated, or?
Yes, it was translated, and it actually went through a few different forms before we finally got to the lyrics, because the challenge with, obviously with the Japanese writer and an American singer, and even just considering all of the different people that play Final Fantasy, it was challenging to find words that fit the message, because it does have kind of, the way that these lyrics are, it's not how we would normally speak. They're kind of almost goth or another world type, messages. It's almost, I almost feel like I'm kind of this, I don't know, this kind of goddess in the sky.
A deity type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little, that in alone creates another complication. So it's like you have the Japanese language, the English language, and then you have also this almost point of view that's really unique to both cultures. So I think, yes, it went through many different forms, and we had to kind of make decisions too on what really sounded better as I was singing it. That it didn't sound, because when you sing a lyric, it's funny. I was just talking to one of my vocal students this week about this, because I do a lot of vocal coaching and artist mentoring, nice. And I was mentioning, we were talking about how there's certain words that don't sound good when you sing them, and sometimes as a lyricist, you have to go back and say, well, how could I say this that it just is going to sound better when I sing it. And we had to do quite a bit of that when we were doing Answers. If you look at some of the original scores and stuff, like on my piano, I just found some the other day and it was like, whoa, this really came a long way, But, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure who exactly wrote those lyrics. I thought it was Naboo, but there might have been someone else involved. Because I know they have a couple different people. I know, that's terrible. I should know that.
I know that he does the majority of the, obviously the composing. So I would assume that someone assisted with the lyrics. Right. I don't know. But it's such a powerful track. And, performing that at Distant Worlds, I've seen it live. It's really powerful. It really just captivates the entire audience. Do you find performing the track live an emotional roller coaster? Like, do you, I mean, obviously you're a professional, so I'm sure you're able to manage it, but do you find yourself sometimes getting overwhelmed by performing a track like that?
Oh, it definitely. And I think, you bring up an insightful point, because it's always a challenge as a singer to be in the moment and to really be embracing like what you're doing and to really be emotionally engaged with the message of what you're putting out. And I always try so much to do that because that's so important. And I feel like that is the thing as a performer that people are coming to see, is your emotion that you bring. But at the same time, you do have to sort of temper it with a performance and not let that take you away, and I think that's the challenge. And that's really just takes experience and doing it a lot. And then just, having just that discipline to sort of like you're in the moment, but you're also still in control of your voice and you're not just going to like break down into tears because it's this one moment that you're like, I can't stand it anymore. I mean, that can be like that too, because performing is very emotional. And in fact, you want to hear something funny? There used to be, because we've done different things with Distant Worlds over the years. And sometimes we'd have a series of shows where it would be, all the music would be in a certain order. And I remember I used to joke around with Arnie about this, that every time he did Era's theme before I had to sing Answers, there was a couple times he did it that way. And it would be really hard for me because Era's theme is so sad to me and it's beautiful, but it also makes me kind of choked up. And I'm like, it's so hard to do like Answers right after. So it's kind of funny, like how you have to really get in control of that. So I know I'm giving you sort of a long answer, but no. But no, it's that's a hard thing as a performer, to manage those emotions is probably the hardest part of performing, I think.
So you have Answers, it's delivered, it's in the game. It was very well taken. It matches the game beautifully. And then you have an opportunity to come back and do Dragonsong. Yes. Did you think that there was going to be an opportunity to come back, or did you think that this was a one-time gig, I'm done?
No, I thought it'd be a one-time thing. And it was like, and I was grateful for that. And then the fact that I could come back and do another song, I was so thrilled, and I was so flattered that Square wanted to do that. And Naboo and Arnie and everybody, was on board with it. So I was very flattered. And really, I credit the fans for that too, because I think if Answers hadn't been so warmly celebrated and received, I think that's certainly what, propelled that decision, that it kind of made sense to have me do like another song, just because that one had gone over so well. So I don't know if they even planned on doing an extension. I mean, I think Final Fantasy XIV was, well, you don't always know. Like I say,
like you said, with the game, it came out and the original 14 was not too good. I didn't have an opportunity to play it myself, but there's a lot of YouTube videos where people rip the shit out of it. And anyway, so that went aside, and A Realm Reborn came with Yoshi P and did an amazing job to deliver a really polished game. So I imagine the time between when you originally did Answers and Dragonsong would have been quite extensive, then the time gap between the two.
I think so. I'd have to go back and look to see.
Must have been a couple years.
Yeah, I think it was a couple years, And really Dragonsong ended up being a really beautiful song too. I that's right up there as one of my favorites to perform with Distant Worlds. I mean, it's a really effective song, and it's really very different than Answers. I mean, it has some moments in it that are intense, but it's a very different, it has a different feel. It's almost a little sadder in a way, as I understand it in gameplay, I think it's during a pretty intense kind of sad. They
definitely do a good job at finding the song that matches the over the theme of the actual expansion, right? So, then if you hadn't scored one and you scored two, then you come back for a hat trick with Revolutions. You're probably thinking, "Wow, I'm just I'm laughing here."
I know.
So that was good.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, and Revolutions was a cool song. It's still one of those songs that's growing on me because it's very different, and it wasn't super easy to sing because it has sort of these different pieces to it, that kind of are very moody and stuff. But it's got that same Nobu-san orchestration though, that is, his sense of melody and just writing these kind of anthemic pieces is just, I hope that you write again.
I don't usually get starstruck by people, but when I met Nobu, we were backstage at New Jersey, and I was even a little starstruck because the guy is just such an incredible. It just everything he does, everything he touches is gold. Such a talented man. And and obviously with the latest expansion, they chose to take a different direction. They've done something very different from what you've done before.
Right.
Obviously,
I like some of the music though. I've checked it out.
Yeah, it is very different. It's really good. Obviously, if there was anything in play, you wouldn't be able to talk about it anyway. But would you like to be able to return to, the 14 series to be able to bring another main title piece?
Oh, I definitely would. And I sure hope they ask me because I'd love to do that. And I'd love to collaborate with them or even Sokan. Sokan, I know, does a lot of writing for
He's very
14
talented
also.
too. Incredibly
he's
talented.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Giving Noble a run for his money. It's always good when you start to see that the talent within the Final Fantasy series when it comes to music is absolutely just amazing.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Well, you are one of them, so that's slightly biased.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even mean it like that. I meant the composer.
No, I know you did.
So
I know you did.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you. That's very kind.
On the topic of Distant Worlds, that you've been performing, and not only have you done for the tracks from 14, you've also had an opportunity to perform other tracks from across Final Fantasy. I believe at New Jersey, you did Eyes on Me, I think.
Yes.
And I will openly admit I got a tad tearful at that one because 8 was my first Final Fantasy game that I'd played. I'd bought myself as a kid, and to hear it live on stage was overwhelming, Awesome. So and I imagine, knowing that you're having that kind of impact, because I know you do a meet and greet afterwards. Yes. What's it like to interact with fans?
Oh, I love it. It's so great to interact with fans. It really, it reminds you as an artist, just how powerful this music is. It also reminds me too of, that people are so emotionally invested in this game, and to see their reaction to even me or the music and stuff, it really touches me, and it makes me very grateful because, I really think, there are so many amazing artists in this world, and I just feel so fortunate that I sort of, got this opportunity that God brought it all together or whatever, that I would, meet Nobu, that I'd meet Arnie, and we'd have this opportunity to work on this music, because you don't always find that. And there's a lot of really talented people that never really get that opportunity. So I feel really blessed and really grateful for that. And the fact that I've been able to have this relationship with some of the fans too. I have so many really passionate fans that follow me, and I appreciate you guys all for watching today, and I just invite you to follow me on all the socials and stuff, because I really, I, as an artist, the greatest thing that I treasure is being able to share music with people. It's what I was put on this world to do, and it's it's a huge honor.
I know. I was scrolling through Twitter, I think it's 2 or 3 days ago, and I always keep up with the KupoCon hashtag, and you were throwing out a belter, and I was like, oh my god! So retweet that.
I was.
So it's it's good to see someone with a talent still staying positive in what is a crazy time, right? That's what people need right now, is positive energy, because the world is just a scary place, Well, look, let's take some questions from the folks that are watching. So if you are watching and you have a question, please go ahead, throw it in the chat. One of my mods will pick it up. But I do have a few questions from people who had submitted before this.
Okay.
So we have a question from Kay. And Kay says, out of the songs you've sung and performed, what one did you find was your personal favorite?
Well, I mean, I kind of think it's a tie between Answers and Kiss Me Goodbye. I love Answers because it's kind of it's kind of the song that has really brought me to so many fans. And there's just this special connection I feel with the fans with that song. But Kiss Me Goodbye, I really like too, just because it's probably one of the more pop songs that is, in Final Fantasy. And I think, because I am a recording artist and a singer songwriter, it's almost one that it would fit into my set, with my music. So I really knew exactly how to sing it, when I
like your safe space.
First singing that song. Exactly. So I really have always felt a real strong connection to that song because of that. But it's hard to pick because they're all so beautiful.
And they're all very different too, right? And I figured Answers would hold a special place in your heart because, you know, it's where it all really began and it blossomed into something, right? Yeah. So Eve asks, what other singers or artists do you admire or who inspire you?
Who inspires me? Well, there are so many great singers out right now. I think I really love Adele. I think she's got just an incredible voice. I've enjoyed watching her career. I think I love Coldplay. I especially
very
like
similar taste in music.
Yeah, awesome.
Love Coldplay. Coldplay growing up was my thing. I'm pretty sure Adele is due. I think Adele said she was coming out with a new album soon.
Oh, wow. So. No, I love her voice. And I love how simple her production is, which is sort of, I'm working on a lot of new music right now, which I'm so excited to share with everyone. And a lot of it is simpler production. I have stuff that's, you know, just very organic piano and my voice and strings. And then I have some stuff that's like rocks out with a band. And
well, that's a lot of what I find a lot of singers and performers are now. It's the rawness of it, right? It's not the overly technology taking away from it. It's the raw voice. Right. What's the guy's name? The Scottish guy. His name
Ed Sheeran.
No. Oh God, somebody help me.
I love him too, by the way. I think
really bug awesome. Me. Someone's going to say it in the chat in a second, but it's that rawness to it. I can't think of his name now. He's like hilarious. The guy's like really, really funny. I just can't think of what his name is now. Someone's going to write it. Somebody. Anyway, unfortunately, the chat's like about 30 seconds behind, so someone's going to write it in a second. But no. Anyone else that has, that you inspired?
Well, I think I said Coldplay. Yeah. I really love U2. I think Bono is one of the best storyteller lyricists. You know, he just has a way of lyrics that is just so powerful.
It was Lewis Capaldi. That's what it was. Lewis Capaldi.
Oh, okay. I am not familiar with that artist.
You should absolutely check him out.
I will. Yeah. I will. But yeah, no, I mean, there's so many people that are good. I mean, I grew up listening to obviously like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and stuff like that. So I love those bands also. And singer-songwriters, I used to listen to a lot of Carla Bonoff, who, is actually she wrote a lot of big songs in the 70s, but a lot of singer-songwriters know who she is, but I used to love her. Linda Ronstadt. I love, but a lot of the contemporary stuff now, there's some great singers out right now, which I really, even like Sam Smith, what a great singer, I really enjoy his stuff. I like really great singing, and I also like really clever production. And I think those are the two things that I listen for when I'm listening. I mean, I love Kelly Clarkson. I think Kelly Clarkson is a great singer, and she's, some of her records are, they're great. I mean, they're really, so that hopefully gives you enough.
It does. There's quite a few Brits in there, which makes me happy. So
I know.
I've always enjoyed and I'm biased, obviously, but I find that the UK has a very different type of music to the rest of the world. It varies massively. Like if I listen to the top 10 or the top 50 here in Canada, it's all very samey, I find. But if I listen to the top 50 in the UK, it's very varied, I find. And there's something about UK music, but again, very biased.
Sure, I hear you.
So a question from Tabitha says, what's your favorite way to get in a mood to sing for concerts?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I need to do the day of a concert, it's kind of a day thing. It's not something that happens right before the concert. It's really just, I think it's what I really try to do, especially if I'm on the road. It's a little easier to do this when I'm traveling for a show, which is most shows, because I don't play that much in my hometown, is really trying to have a relaxed day. And really, I try to work out. I drink a lot of water. I spend some time praying. I have a really strong faith in God. So that's a big part of my preparation, is just to really spiritually be just focused and to really be able to relax. I always try to, one thing that I don't do, it's almost more about what I don't do of the day of a show, is I don't get into big emotional conversations. I don't get into conflict, because, those are two of the biggest things that can really detract from a performance for me. Right. Because I am giving so much of myself mentally and emotionally, I need to keep that area of my life really clean that day. So it's that kind of stuff. It's almost like, listen, we have to, if there's a heavy conversation that maybe someone baits me into, maybe something in my personal life, I'm always like, listen, let's just talk about it tomorrow. Or really trying to kind of protect that space so that I can focus. And I think that's probably the hardest thing we do as performers is have to do that. So
I was waiting for you to say, well, the day before, like the day of a show, I'm just in the bar knocking back shots of whiskey, and then I just out I go and I do my thing.
That's after the show, Alex. That's not.
I remember I went into Arnie Roth's dressing room after in New Jersey. I forget what he had on the table. It was really a unique. I think his wife was there. He's married, isn't he?
Yes.
I forget what it was.
His wife is awesome. I love her.
Oh yeah, we only spoke briefly, but lovely. But there was no shots back there. There was no alcohol. I can confirm. Yeah. So a question from Liv: what has been your favorite venue to perform in?
Oh, well, that's kind of easy. The Royal Albert Hall.
I knew it. There you go. Another Brit. Wonderful. You're growing on me by the minute.
I mean, there's so many, all the venues there's so many great venues and stuff, but obviously
that's an iconic one for sure.
Really special.
Yeah.
Because that's one of those halls as an artist, it's kind of a dream to be able to play there.
Yeah.
So to get that opportunity is just humbling and amazing. And the only thing I will say though about Royal Albert that's interesting is because it's a circular venue, it's a little challenging. You're like, where do I look? Because you've got fans that are all around you.
Yeah, it's a tall one too. It's not just round; it goes really high up. I always find it was weird when you're in the Royal Albert Hall and there's a lot of people in there. It feels smaller. Maybe that's just the way I look at it because it's so like everyone's kind of hanging over you.
Right.
But the organ in that venue is absolutely incredible.
I know. Yeah. I love when they do Dancing Mad.
They did. So how many times have you performed at the Royal Albert? Is it twice?
Oh, I think more than that. I think it's been at least, it might be 3 or 4 times actually.
Because I was there with Alan the last time, and stunning. It's just
Thank you. Seriously, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was thrilling to be there. So
unfortunately, that venue's been struggling quite badly recently, and they said that they might have to shut the doors, but the government came in and bailed them out, so that was good.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't let that one go. That's
absolutely not. Way too iconic. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we have another question here from James. We missed you in Shadowbringers.
Thank you.
The question was, were you approached for the expansion, and do you know if you'll be doing any future expansions? But I appreciate that you can't comment on much. So
yes, I probably couldn't tell you, but at this point, I do not know of any new, but I'm always hoping. And I think
it's still quite early out because there's still, they did have they usually have their fan fest, but everything, because of COVID, everything is practically, everything is dead in the water right now. So, well, we do hope that you do come back for future expansions. Now, a couple questions from the chat right now.
Okay.
Quite a few, actually. Okay, so James asks, have you played Final Fantasy XIV to get a sense of what the game is and what the song means to fans? Have you had an opportunity to play?
I haven't yet. And I know, I'm sorry to say that, I do have a Final Fantasy game in the corner of my office that was sent one by Square Enix. And I just have not had a chance. I know it's very time consuming to play.
That's an understatement.
And my schedule is so insane, you guys. It's just really hard but I have to tell you, it is on my list of things that I want to do this year or next, is maybe even do it online with you guys and have you help me. Haha. So you can laugh at me and, get a real kick out of me trying to play. Because I would like to learn, but I did learn about the songs. Just to address that question, I have a couple friends that are gamers that actually I've met through Final Fantasy that kind of give me the lowdown on where the songs are and what they're about, so that I'm able to, because that was really important to me, that when I sing these that I know what's going on, so I'm not just like, you know what I mean? Just out of respect.
No, you got to have the backstory, the lore behind it to be able to give it that emotional performance, right?
Exactly. So soon is the answer to that. Okay, so we have a question from James. Would you be this is not I'm just reading this. James says, would you be willing to collab on a track for KupoCon? Would you
be willing to work on a collaboration on a track with KupoCon? That's what the question was. Would you be willing to work on a track with us, apparently?
Are you guys working on a track?
I don't know. Are we? Nobody told me.
Wow. Sure.
Okay. We have a question from Danny. What was the most challenging song to sing at Distant Worlds?
Well, I think, that's a good question. I think probably this is going to surprise fans. One of the harder songs for me to sing is probably Eyes on Me. And even though it's a beautiful song and I really like it, it's in a little bit of an uncomfortable key for me. Because, as a singer, you have like these different spots in your voice where it's easier to sing. And that song is in a little bit of a challenging key, which I'd love for it to be like a little bit lower. But it's because of where it sits in the orchestra, we can't really change the key. So that's always a song that I work on a lot at home when I know I'm going to be doing a show, because it takes more air and just kind of finesse and technique for me to really sing it well. So,
you did an amazing job. I already mentioned that it brought me to tears. So,
thank you very much. Well, I'm doing my job, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that one is a little tricky. I mean, Distant Worlds is also a challenging song. That's a really beautiful one, but again, the melody line's a little bit tricky. So it definitely is one of those songs you really got to. There's a lot of technique involved to do it well. So.
And one final question, it's more of a request. Donna says, Susan, do you remember the Chocobo girl that you met at the Frankfurt 14 concert? She's pretty ill these days with lifelong illnesses. Could you give her some positive words, please?
Oh my, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh man, I do remember meeting her. And listen, you need to hang in there, because all of this, I hope that whatever is happening right now physically, you're able to get better, and I will keep you in my prayers. And, just remember that how you're thinking and how your attitude is a big part of healing, and if you can try to stay positive and surround yourself with people who are positive to support you, that hopefully will help you keep your spirits up, so don't give up, is the biggest thing I would say, because we all appreciate you and love you and you're part of this community. And that's one of the things I love about Final Fantasy is it has such a warm,
absolutely.
A warm, friendly community where we all kind of support each other and help each other. And I consider myself to be part of that. So, and you are part of that. So I say to her today that you're part of that and we need you. So hang in there and try to stay positive and let us know what we can do to help. And I'm doing a live streaming concert really soon. So I hope you guys can all come to that, and maybe that's something that would help lift your spirits. So
absolutely. Well, when you do that, we'll be sure to share the information across our social media.
Yeah,
well, Susan, awesome. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for being a part of the Final Fantasy and the KupoCon community. I know you had the opportunity to come to a KupoCon. It was actually our first one all the way back in New Jersey. You came in for a short period of time and met with fans. So I was really thankful for that. And we do hope that we'll be able to connect again in the future.
Me too.
But, thank you for what you do. Not only is what you do an art form, it's also, it's a form of healing, because listening to music, being in that zone, being in the experience can be quite a healing experience, I find. So thank you for everything that you do.
You are so welcome. It is such a pleasure to be a part of this community. So I appreciate all you guys so much. And thank you, Alex, so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love what you've created with KupoCon. I hope you guys are just continue to be successful. So if I can help, let me know.
That's great.
All right.